All right, welcome everyone. That was the artist Phish, spelled with a P-H, P-H-I-S-H, with the songs Free and Character Zero. So let's take a look here and see what we see. This one. There we go. So, and even just the name Phish, there's a lot there. Just in one word. Might sound like a nonsensical way to spell fish, but if we look deeper, what is the Christic message? To make fishers of men, to the fish being the symbol for wisdom, rising above the worldly pleasures and sensations into the head heaven, the Pisces, both the feet and the highest, that archetype. So that's fish, and then pH, spelled with a pH. Well, you've got the pH, the pH scale, or the acidity or alkaline. pH stands for potential hydrogen. So the more potential for hydrogen, which is the highest periodic element, then the higher we are. So alkalinity is what leads to rising. And then the other one is I'm drawing a blank. Oh, the phi ratio. So the phi ratio being 1.618, the underpinning for how the patterns within creation emerge. So it's the sort of more logical left brain evidence of a divine creator of intelligent design is through mathematics and the ways that things show up. So, phi and pi and how they're related and how they show up in all these different patterns shows that it's not just some random happenstance. There's meaning, there's order to it amidst the chaos, and it's both of them together. So yeah, a lot in just their name. And then looking at the lyrics here of the song Free, this is all about meditation. This could be the point of awakening, to realize that we are no longer bound, or we're stepping out of the illusion. So I'm floating in the blimp a lot. I'm floating. I am in that meditative state. I'm connecting to the etheric realms, the non-physical. I feel the feeling I forgot. We remembered this. We knew who we were, and we chose to fall into forgetfulness for purpose, for reason, so that we could go through the experience of remembering again. So I feel the feeling I forgot. We start to remember. Swimming weightless in the womb, because it is a rebirth. You're being reborn. When you realize that the identity and the egoic construct, while it served a purpose, is ultimately there for us to rise past, integrate with, and rise past. So in order to do that, we have to die and be reborn. So swimming weightless in the womb, bouncing gently round the room. In a minute, I'll be free and will be splashing in the sea. So the sea being the formless nature of the immaterial, non-physical, the divine feminine creative essence. So that's what we get when we have that spark of creativity and we surrender to the flow. We're flowing in the sea, we're splashing in the sea. I feel no curiosity. I see the path ahead of me. So I feel no curiosity, as in my mind is not wandering. I'm not drifting into other spaces. I'm here and now. I see the path ahead of me, the straight and narrow path. In a minute, I'll be free and we'll be splashing in the sea. We hear a tiny cry as the ship goes sliding by. We hear a tiny cry. I'm not sure about that one. As the ship goes sliding by. So ships, ocean, sea, all related to sailing is often a reference for meditation. The ship can be that as well. So free, that's when we are truly free. And then it repeats from there and just continues on. It's a great song by a great artist. I had the privilege of seeing them but just a month ago or so. phenomenal, really good show. They always do such a good job playing, and these are their studio songs, so they sound a lot different when they play live because it's much more fluid, kind of like jam band. It's a lot of fun to see. Not a huge fan of the crowd that goes to the shows, at least in my experience, but the shows themselves are phenomenal. They're great musicians. This album, Billy Breeze, came out in 1997. So they've been doing it for quite some time. It's definitely a very very devout following. They have people who have been to tens and hundreds of shows when you go to those. So it's always a fun time in that way. So that was Free. And then the next song, Character Zero. So this is like, if Free represents, and it's all from the same album, if Free represents like the awakening, Character Zero is like the wrestling with the ego. This is that time where we go through the challenge and see if we're going to fall back into the old ways of attachment and identity, get sucked into society that way. Are we going to stay the character zero, the character nothing, or are we going to be the character zero in the sense that we become the void that and are tapping into that creative essence? So two very different, but this is the sort of split path. So I was taught a month ago to bide my time and take it slow. But then I learned just yesterday to rush and never waste the day. So the dichotomy between, and it says I was taught a month ago, but really this is what we've known, to bide my time and take it slow, to be here now. We don't need to rush through life. We don't, the whole societal conditioning is pushing you into this idea that you have to grind and work so hard and you won't amount to anything unless you do that. And you have to slave away constantly for quote unquote success. But reality is we are divine beings here to, it does take some work to peel away some of the layers. The attachments can be work, but it's not toiling. It's not grinding. It's to release all of that so that we can surrender to the infinite nature that we have access to, that you are. The abundance that this creation reflects, because we are abundant. Unless we forget that, and then we fall into the scarcity thing. So the toiling, grinding thing, that's the scarcity path versus the abundant path, to bide my time and take it slow. So this is the split between these two, the choice. Then I learned just yesterday, the more recent sort of distortion that we've fallen into when we've fallen is the rush and never waste the day, the scarcity mindset. Well, I'm convinced the whole day long that all I learn is always wrong. So we're falling into that confused, forgetful state. And things are true that I forget, as I just said, but no one taught that to me yet. So we're sort of looking for external validation, external teachers, and of course they can be helpful at times, but if we give all our power away to the external, then we're just going to be bound to wherever we're led. And so it's all about stepping into that sovereignty. And we can certainly look to others as examples, but not to give our power away. So and then it kind of says this line quite a bit: I ought to see the man Mulcahy. And I looked it up, and Trey Anastasio, the lead singer and the guy who wrote the song, he said oftentimes they'll just use nonsensical names that just sort of fit with the sound that they're trying to make. And I'm sure that's true to some degree, but I also think that he doesn't let on deeper meanings, because he doesn't go into the deeper meanings of their songs. And there's a lot of deep meanings to a lot of songs. I'm just honing in on one album. That's my favorite album, Billy Breeze. But there's so much. And even the name Billy Breeze is BB22, the Sacred Mother. It's all of that. So I ought to see the man Mulcahy. So that's like an Irish last name, and maybe has no meaning to it. I tend to think it does. I think it's like, I think the name represents that sort of falling back into relying on the external. So I ought to see the man Mulcahy. We're doubting ourselves. And so I ought to go see a priest, an expert, a doctor, whatever, wherever I'm going to give my power away. That's the sort of falling nature that we can find ourselves in and have found ourselves in. And even how he says it, Mulcahy, is it like mocking, like the mock me, or I don't know, some sort of mocking form of that, perhaps, if we're giving our power away to the cabal or whatever. So then it repeats from there. I was taught a month ago to bide my time and take it slow, but then I learned yesterday to rush and never waste a day. Now I'm convinced the whole day long that all I learn is always wrong and things are true that I forget, but no one taught me to that yet. And then it repeats that line again. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of lyrics to go through, but I think it's a very powerful message, and just showing that character zero dichotomy. Are you going to be the fool, being the lowest tarot? Are you going to be falling back into the pattern of staying the fool, or are you going to use that as a platform of releasing all that you no longer need, and acknowledge that you come from the void, and all of these things that we've grown accustomed to or attached to? It doesn't mean that we have to lose them all, but we have to be prepared to lose them all. Right? So that's the living in non-attachment, staying in that space of openness. The void, the zero is open. So we have to be open in order to receive, in order to move. Or we can just stay attached to whatever we think we have, and sort of learn the hard way. So yeah, that's that song. So Free and Character Zero by the artist Phish. Hope y'all enjoyed that. And welcome to another Quest-i-on, the quest we are on, the quest to illuminate the single eye. And this is what we do here, is where we come and we ask questions and see what comes up. There's always topics and things to go over. There's always subjects that might be on your mind or someone else's mind. So all topics are welcome, and everything is on the table. If you have a question or have a scenario, something you've learned, or just something you want to share, feel free to jump in at any point. You can do that by hitting the center button on your screen. That will signal to me that you'd like your mic opened, and then I'll open it and call on you when there's an opportune moment. If your mic is already open, just wait for a quiet pause and feel free to jump in. And if that's difficult, just tap that button a couple times, and I'll do my best to see it, and I'll call on you when there is a quiet moment. So yeah, excited to get into this one today. So just some quick announcements. I am 100% donation supported to do all that I do, so I appreciate everyone who has chipped in for that. Every little bit does help. I keep my expenses very low, just so I can do as much as I can without much at all, and I'm happy living that way. But I often do think, man, it would be nice if I could afford this equipment, or hire somebody to help me do these sorts of things, or edit in these sort of ways. So every little bit helps and goes and contributes to that. And just trust that, just know that every bit that does go towards me is going either to help others in need, or it's going to help get this message out in a better way. So thank you to all those who have contributed. And if you'd like to, let's see, my webpage, justincarpenter.org, is where you can donate. So there's a page there, justincarpenter.org/contribute, which has all my donation links. There are still a few that I need to add to this. If you have trouble with any of these listed, just let me know and we can find another way. And again, just thank you to all who have helped. And as far as the people that I am helping, one of the consistent needs is the Lions of Uganda, Bali, and the children, the orphans in Uganda. They are doing their best to make do, having challenges with keeping their current place that they're living, their landlords being difficult, along with, I'm not sure what the status is on their toilet. Their, it's essentially just a hole in the ground, a latrine, and it was getting backed up and having issues. And so, just other costs on top of the roughly $300 a month that they need to just get food and basic needs met each month. So I'm doing my best to cover that when I can. And any bit that goes towards me is helping out with that. But if you'd like that specifically to go to Bali, just let me know in a note. You can either give to this Give, Send, Go, which I'll know goes to that, or any other way that you can donate to me. Just get a note, write a note in there and say you'd like it to go to Bali, and I will make sure it gets there. He's always super grateful for anyone that does, as I'm sure some of you have seen in JC Family. He's very, very grateful and appreciative for any support there. So we're doing our best, and I keep reminding him to reach out to other groups and spaces and see if we can get support from other groups as well. If you have anybody in mind that can help sponsor a space like that, even if it's just like $20 a month or something like that, that's a huge, huge help. If you're unable to give financially, just to help spread the word and find others who might be able to chip in. So thank you for that. And yeah, I think that's it as far as the announcements go. As far as like news stuff that's been going on, I haven't been following too closely. There's all the stuff in DC. There's the efforts, like Trump met with Putin, and then the whole media storm about that, saying that he wasn't, doing this or that. And but it does seem like, at least on the surface level, and again, I will very much clarify that I don't think there's actually any real conflict going on in Ukraine. But the narrative for the people is that there is, and that seems to be coming to a head soon, to where it's either going to escalate further or die down. So we'll see what happens with all of that. And yeah, I don't really have much else from news to go over. Like I said, I haven't been paying attention too much. So we'll just jump right into questions for the day. And I love to give priority to those who are here live on the call. I have some written questions that I can go over if need be. But yeah, and you're always welcome to send me questions. If you can't make the lives, I get it. It's hard to accommodate everyone's schedule. So just feel free to send me questions, write comments on anything. If you have a question, and I do my best to save it and cover it on these shows, just so I can go more in depth versus just a written response. So yeah, but like I said, I love to give priority to those who are here live on the call. So if you are here with us today and you'd like to ask a question, I'll just give a quick pause and see if anybody wants to jump in and start us off. Hey, Sunshine. Go ahead, sister. And then we'll go with Joel.
I'm so excited. I have a few questions, but I'll just ask one right now, and then everybody else can jump in with their probably fantastic questions. My question is I keep hearing a lot of the stuff about Israel. And I don't do a lot of like any of that stuff anymore, but I do know that I think Candace Owens came out a while ago, and when she got in trouble, like, we should just be able to ask questions. And then lots of stuff is coming out about Israel, and so my husband said something about wasn't it a Q drop or something, or somebody had said that they were saving Israel for last. And so is that what they're talking about? So a lot of people are awakening to the fact that, I just think normal people are waking up to the fact that everything wasn't how we thought it was. And so, that's my first question. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, great question. So yes, it was absolutely mentioned several times in the Q drops that they were saving Israel for last, just because people who Q was speaking to those who were rapidly awakening or already in a semi-awakened state of what had been going on in the world and how things had been controlled. So from the Cabal's perspective, Israel was the puppet master. That was where the strings were all running from. That's where the control levers were. Of course, there were other mechanisms to the control levers, but the head of it, you could say, was in Israel. And that's why Israel was the only place that you couldn't really criticize. That you were either publicly shamed, censored through big tech, or whatever the case may be. And you go to find out that all these politicians had dual citizenships to Israel, and it goes really deep. But anytime anybody talks about it, it's always just thrown into this, oh, you're being anti-Semitic. And even in some places, there were legal repercussions for doing stuff like that. So when Q was posting and the Anons were asking questions and engaging about things and pointing out that that's where the puppet masters were, that's why Q kept having to say, we're saving Israel for last, because it's not effective, it's not strategic to go for that narrative first, because normal everyday people, they got very defensive. You had those on the right, those, thinking that, buying the religious Christian narrative that, oh, we're just supposed to support Israel because the Bible says so, and that's what we've always done. So they were very quick to criticize and go against anyone who was critical of Israel. And then on the left, you have many people in Hollywood, a lot of Jewish families, a lot of power and influence in that area, and a lot of the leftist sort of woke culture was very quick to label anyone who was speaking out against the Jews as being anti-Semitic, especially if you're speaking out against Israel. So you had both on the right and the left this controlled programming to go against anybody that spoke out about it. So you can't go against it head on. It's not effective that way, and Q knew that. So saving Israel for last, because the stage had to be set. And look how beautifully orchestrated that has happened over these years. We've seen those on the right move to a realization, not all of them, but many of them have realized that Israel is this war state that's constantly siphoning resources and preying on others, and causing lots of issues. So that starts to dissuade the narrative, and even Trump, who at first, and he still does, because it's still part of this slowly, he's not going to be the one who openly criticizes too much. But even his wording has changed over the years to bring more criticism to Israel, how Netanyahu has acted, and all of this other kind of stuff. So that's starting to slowly degrade this programming of staunch support for Israel, no matter what they do. So that's on the right. And then on the left, you had the whole Palestine conflict, which, again, the majority of that conflict is fabricated. What we see, the images are created. They're often using old footage. They're often recreating things in places like Nevada that have similar landscaping. So it's a movie. Enjoy the show, because most of that, what we're seeing, is fake. Now, people's reactions to it can be quite real. So there is real conflict, and there have been real casualties, but they're so minimal compared to what we think if you just take it at face value, if you just look at it from a surface level. So that whole Palestine-Israel conflict got those on the sort of left to all of a sudden side with Palestine, and that's where all of the woke thing went to. And so now on the left, people don't really staunchly support Israel anymore. So you had on both aisles this sort of degradation of this automatic defense in any sort of conversation towards Israel. Now, the majority of people are not really happy with what Israel has been doing. For whatever reason they are drawn to, it doesn't matter. They're not happy with what Israel is doing. So that's setting the stage, saving Israel for last. So now it can be more openly talked about. And I don't know what the narrative is going to shift to, but it's clearly moving that direction. And it's working beautifully. It's working quite well. So when we see disclosure, when we see all of this revealed, it's very much going to pinpoint, the history of how this quote unquote nation state was formed, why it was formed, who was behind it, how, and this goes into the distortions around how World War II was taught and all of that. But that is a very tough pill to swallow. So there needs to be some priming for that. And that's what we're seeing up to this point. So that's why, that's why we're finally getting to that. And the narrative, which is great, because it means we're in the home stretch. The fact that Israel is being talked about and even being openly criticized by people in both aisles, it means we're at the end. I don't know how long the home stretch is going to last, but we're in the last phase of it. And so that's very encouraging in that sort of sense. So, I'll just pause there and hand it back to you and see if that covered the question that you asked, and I can go into anything further if you'd like.
No, that was a good explanation. I think, because you're really good you have a gift for teaching things that, like, I have a very hard time explaining that. You're very articulate, I guess, in like normal people terms. So I feel like that it's very interesting because I absolutely agree with you 100%. And I'm super, super just grateful that we knew all this before, and I'm not like a normal person trying to figure this out. So when I do hear it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that just makes so much sense. And I'm just going to use Quest-i-ons for an example, which I absolutely believe that she's definitely a part of, like a part of the team or whatever, because I see her completely talking about things that we've all people like on this phone call have talked about years ago, but I see her doing it in a way like I can see her criticizing Trump, and then she's then you have those people that are on the left like, oh yeah, like they then want to start listening to her, and basically what she's stating is exactly what you're saying, that so I can see it, like I can see the bigger picture. And I, my only question about that is, what do you think the last is? I mean, can you explain, like, okay, well, so we all can see that this is the last part of the show, according to Q, because they were saving Israel for last. So what does that look like in regular people terms? I guess regular people talk.
Yeah, well, I can't speak with any definitive idea of how this is going to play out exactly, but I can speculate that Q also said scare event necessary. I feel like that's supposed to be the catalyst that happens for whatever length of time. I don't think it will be very long, but I do think there will be, whether a day or a week, maybe a month, but I really don't think it could last that long without people getting too chaotic, of something that scares the ever living shit out of everybody. That's still sleepy to any degree. And so this will look like a financial collapse or a World War III scenario or a Civil War scenario, or perhaps a combination of all of those. Those are the three contenders in my eyes for what would kick off that sort of scare event, to when things would be seemingly falling into chaos. As Q said, only at the precipice will people find the will to change. So we're being inched closer to the edge of this cliff, and then we're going to be pushed off of it. But fighting it or not. Most of us here will gladly leap off that cliff because we know God wins and it's all good. But those who don't know that, and even those who aren't as confident in that, might be scared shitless at that time of being pushed off the edge. So some common, and it could be something different, but those seem like the most probable scenarios, some combination of such or one of them, to send us into that fall moment before we're caught, which would be being caught by the safety net of, it's okay, the military is here, we've been here for quite some time, we just couldn't tell you because we were still rooting out the enemy. So that's where the Law of War manual, and if you haven't read that manual, I suggest it, because it defines, and it's like official documentation that anyone publicly can find about what does the military do in an occupied, when our country has been occupied by an enemy presence. What's their protocol? And it defines it quite well. And it also defines the necessity of perhaps not even revealing to the public what's being done because of backlash, because of those who are convinced by the enemy's propaganda tactics, which is what has happened. The useful idiots, as the communist labeling was, the useful idiots were the ones that they could convince of the sort of leftist narrative right off the bat, which were also so that's what they've been doing, and that will be that reveal. Something will happen that will send us off that cliff, and then the reveal will be, don't worry, the military is here. And we've got some things to share with you. We've got to let this all out and get everyone on the same page to some degree. So that's where the potential for the EBS and the 10 Days of Darkness, which as far as I know is still very much the crescendo. That's the big turning point. That's the big moment where all is revealed. Every device all across the earth, anything that has Wi-Fi capability will be automatically linked to the Starlink grid that has been set up, and that message will be broadcasted every day for those 10 days, likely a different message, but all to warm people up. And that's the only thing that's going to be playing. That's the only thing that's going to be being done. The military will be there, a very active presence on the whole earth, no country left out of that, where everyone gets to get the supplies and stuff that they needed. Everyone's taken care of in that sort of way, but nobody's going to school, nobody's going to work, and there's nothing else to do except, you stare off into nothing, which that's fine too if people choose to do that. But I guarantee you 99.999% of everyone is going to be glued to these screens watching everything that's being played, because it's going to be fascinating and horrifying and sad and euphoric and beautiful and all of the above. The emotional roller coaster is going to be quite intense, but that will be what shifts us into this next phase, which is, okay, now the military is there to maintain a skeletal structure of society so that we don't descend into chaos. And then we get to decide what we do next. Every region gets to decide how they want to rebuild their infrastructure and their whatever they want to call it, government or organizing or leadership roles, any of that. So again, I don't have definitive, I have been told these things, but I've also been told that things do shift. So it's not set in stone. The plan is very fluid, and the timing is certainly fluid. But as far as I know, those are still the big moments that are coming next, as far as whenever that scare event happens and what we shift into after that point. So I think that's what you were asking, but I'll pass it back and see if you had anything else.
No, yeah, that was a great answer, and I appreciate that. Also, hold on. I was thinking while you were talking, I was trying not to do that. Um, so okay, so do you remember back when I don't know, John was like in the group and stuff, and then they were talking about the EBS, and then how they were still gonna do that EBS, and then during that EBS, like you said, the people would be stayed on like glued to their screen. So do you remember one time when he told Charlie that he would probably be like on there and like teaching people how to like be in the moment or meditate, I think is kind of what was do you think that's still going to happen? And the only reason I ask is because my parents are very like old school. They're definitely conservatives, but I also think that they're normal people. And I mean, they've like, I feel like they've seen, and are seeing things and changing their ideas. But I also think that my dad, which I'm sure many, because there's a lot of different personalities and different types. If some guy got on the EBS and that was on the TV and it was like telling my dad to meditate, my dad would be like, what the beep? Like, what is going on? Because he's a normal person. I mean, normal people that are in that life. So do you think it's going to be like that still? Or do you think it's more of like a military operation? Because we've had many discussions about this. I mean, me and my group of people. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, what I do know is that they're working with the most advanced data set and predictive models that anyone has access to. So everything that they're doing is going to be to reach the widest band of people to help walk them through it. So if that was or wasn't the route to go, then they would go that way. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how normal everyday people would respond to something like that. And I do know that some things have shifted as far as those ideas. But I can't really speak on that because I'm not involved with that type of planning. So I don't know. Other than, like I said, they're going to do whatever works best for the most people. So whatever that looks like, I'm open to it. But you can't make it perfect and flawless to where it works for everybody. There's always going to be some people that don't respond to this or don't. And that's why even the 10 days disclosure, it's not going to fix everything. It's not going to just, oh, everyone's gone through this 10 days disclosure and everyone knows the truth and that's that. No, that's where our work comes in. They're going to set the stage, but then we're going to have to be the ones who help our friends and family learn these things more in depth. Along with all of these people who we thought were dead are going to be coming out and releasing their talks and books and movies and documentaries and things to help disseminate that information also. But it's going to take time. It's going to take years, likely generations before it really sinks in at that level to get people out of this this like addiction towards being controlled. This pattern of being so attached to our narcissistic abusers because it's what people are comfortable with. It's what they've known. And then having to come face to face with the fact that you're responsible for your entire reality. That's a hard one for people to wrap around. People would much rather give it to a government or a religion or whatever to say, no, they're responsible. I'm just a worthless, nothing. What do I know? And then to have that flipped into, oh no, actually I'm an aspect of the one infinite creator. And I'm here to model that and step into my divinity. That's a big shift. So whatever sort of language and how that shows up and who says what and how it presents itself for the best possible, that's what's going to be done. Details around that, I have no idea. I have no idea who they're going to pick and how that's going to go. As I mentioned, some things do seem to, some perspectives around that specifically have shifted. But I can't speak to how that's going to look. And I haven't had contact with him in a couple years now. So I'm not sure where that is now. And yeah, like I said, I'm not on the inside, or I don't know definitively. I'm not working on the plans. I just know what I have been told, and I've also been told that things do shift. So it's a fluid plan that will be as it is, and the things that we can do to help, as that question has been asked many times, and it always comes back to finding that Christic inspiration within you, learning to still the mind and find peace, and be fluid in this moment, be present, be here and now, so that I can be that wonderful conduit for divinity to flow through, that I can be that container for goodness to fill and then flow over into others around me. That's the most effective thing that we can do for now, and for then, and for all time after. That's the best we can do. And that's really what the Great Awakening is about. The Great Awakening is not about disclosure. It's not about us learning the truth. That's part of it, but that's only there to act as a catalyst so that we step back into our power, and we stop giving our power to others to tell us what to do and how to live. We know how to live. We know how to be. We just have to step into that and take responsibility for ourselves. So yeah, that would be my answer to that one.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I'm just saying, I just think that it's very exciting to see. But it's a lot slower, I think, than maybe like I anticipated, like in 2020. But it's so like exciting to me to see like these like breadcrumbs dropped, and for regular people, because I feel like we're like the small end of that giant, the giant amount of people, the giant, that we're like the teeny amount that is going to, that truly understand what's going on, and it's a process within, but it is very exciting to see people, whether they were on the left or the right, coming to the middle, and being like, okay, it's still, this is wrong, or we've been allowing this. And it's just, and you see all these like breadcrumbs, and you're like, oh, it's just like, I'm so thankful that I knew this stuff before. And I'm not them, but it's so exciting to see people like, have that, like, I don't know, whatever it was when you first started finding out, and you're like, oh, like we've been lied to about everything. And so that drive to really seek the truth, I feel like, is big now. And I think that's exciting, because I, think that it's going to maybe not go as fast as I thought, but it's definitely going. And it's like and it's actually, the information is actually coming out quite fast. I mean, in reality, because, if you've never heard of this stuff, and that's still quite a lot of information for a normie to process, but I still feel like it's coming out fast. Anyways, and yeah, I just super excited. I just think it's fantastic. And I do think it's going to take generations. I think maybe at the beginning I thought like, oh, this is dramatic thing's going to happen, and shit's going to hit the fan for 10 days. But it really is a slow process. And I think the people that were awakened and have been taught by you and everybody else, everybody have been given a fantastic gift. Because look, I'm a slow learner, and I needed this time where maybe other people are be able to get that information and not, process it very quickly. I feel like we've got like a way head start. And so I just appreciate you guys. And, I think it's all super exciting. And I love how, like I said, Justin, that you explain so well, way better than I can. Because it's hard for me to, when I explain things and then people are like, what? And like trying to tell them again, they're like looking at me like I'm bonkers. So, and these are people that want to learn. So I'm just not good at that. And that's a gift that you have. So, anyways, yeah, cool. If, like I said, I have a couple other questions, but I'll wait until later on if, you know, it slows down a bit or whatever. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sunshine. Yeah, I appreciate the kind comments, and yeah, I too saw this happening much faster back at the beginning, and I'm sure we all did to some degree, but now in retrospect, it makes perfect sense why it's needed to take this long and why it could need to take longer to get to that point. Now, I do think there is going to be that sort of crescendo moment that I don't think is going to last very long, the leading up to the 10 days and then the 10 days. But then after that is still going to be quite a long process, however long we need. Not that anyone's going to be necessarily orchestrating it at every level, but it will be that process for us to acclimate to the information that we've been provided and learn how to live our lives without the weight of the scarcity model that's been pushed onto us, to where everyone has resources and time to do the things that they want to do. It's going to be amazing. And so the people that can get a head start on doing that now without the resources, putting pen to paper on ideas that you have or however that looks, then you'll be setting yourself up for that time where it's like, okay, now I have all the resources. What do I do with myself? So many people are not going to know what to do with themselves. And so that's going to be a process to move through. So all of it is very exciting. It is very exciting. And I appreciate the kindness around that. And, yeah, I just wanted to address a related question before we move to Jill. So Jenna asked, how will we be able to contact each other during the downtime? So during those 10 days where everything's locked into that broadcast, I don't know if there will be other communications available, but what I have been told is that the military is going to be a very strong presence everywhere. And I was told, don't be surprised when they call you out by name. They're going to know who's in their area, who's in their neighborhood that they're patrolling, and they're patrolling it to make sure that it doesn't devolve into chaos, that there's not looters and criminals that come out and try and hurt and take advantage of the situation. That's the only reason they're going to be there for. They're going to be there to help get people supplies they need, get people to whatever home or space they need to get to. That's what they will be there for. So as far as communications between us, I don't know if during that 10 days, I don't know what that looks like. There might be some form, some way that we do, but it's also quite possible that there's not extra communication lines during that time, but there's nothing to fear because we're going to have everything that we need, and we're going to have very, very good people all around us to make sure that we're safe and that we have what we need and we can get where we need to go. And then you'll have the broadcast to pay attention to. So I don't know if there'll be, I don't even know if there'll be really room to, or time to communicate otherwise, but there's no need to fear. Whatever is needed to happen is going to happen. They're going to do this in the way that reduces the tension as much as possible, given the information that we're going to be provided. And so, yeah, I'm sure they have everything thought out if they need to. So I just wanted to address that one real quickly. And yeah, great question. Thanks, Sunshine, for bringing that up. And I'll just pass it over to Jill, who'd raised her hand. So we'll go with Jill for a minute, and then we'll go to Rowan after that. So go ahead, Jill.
Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. I'm going to apologize in advance if I can't respond because I'm going to have to pop off. But actually, my question kind of comes into play with what Sunshine had brought up because, which I loved that whole explanation and that question. So the Q drops were, obviously many times there's dual meanings, like wash the waters, like look all the different waters that we thought of with that, whether it's Jesse or Maxine or the waters within us. So in saying that, and I know I've heard, probably Charlie say it at some point, or maybe even Darth or many people, that Israel, saving Israel for last, I felt like it kind of meant us too, because the breakdown is Israel, like humanity, us. And I'm sure everyone else could agree in here how much we've learned and why this was necessary. Oh, go on, sweetheart, go on. What we've learned about ourselves in this process and what role we played in it, as a collective, and the energies. So in saying that, my question initially was about Aaron Abke, because I had already listened to Book of Thomas, but I had initially listened to his many podcasts rather, about the Law of One, and I had read it maybe in 19 or 20, and then once you listen to him explain it, it's just brilliant. I recommend it to anyone. It's a lot of episodes. And I was fortunate enough to be able to listen to it while I cleaned or drove. So we learn a lot about ourselves, obviously. And now with him promoting this book, 3 Beliefs of Ego, which I pre-ordered and I received, I'm reading Anastasia, the Cedars right now, but in these recent, in promoting his new book, it's just absolutely beautiful. Everything that he said, I learned something more about forgiveness, especially. Like I think I might send him a letter, really, because he's done so much just in promoting this book. But he speaks a lot about A Course in Miracles, and so he had started with book Law of One, and now Course in Miracles he read numerous times as well, and now the 3 Beliefs in Ego. So my question was to you, actually, if you had read, I'm sure you plan on reading his new book, but if you had read A Course in Miracles, and if you suggest to read that before this, or just your thoughts on it, how it affected you. It's quite lengthy, and even to listen to it, I think it's like 28 hours or something, 38 hours. So I guess, there's a dual question as well. So now that Sunshine brought up the Israel, like what role we played in all of this, whether, our ego and just the matrix, and why they had to save it for last, like the waters within us. So the people that were quote unquote awakening, look what we've learned and what we realized, what role we played, because we're caused that ripple, and we're not loving one another as we should, and we're so divided. So I thought that's why I like saving us for last, because we're going to have to come together. So I know that was really long, but all right, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's great on, the true meaning of Israel. And as I mentioned, the Great Awakening is not about truth disclosure or even getting rid of all the bad guys or whatever. It's about us remembering who we are, that we are the Trinity embodied. We are the Father, Mother, Child represented, the masculine and feminine union together to create a third. And that's what Israel really means. So it's not a nation state or a place that you go. It's not a people. It's you. And so, yeah, that's the sort of culmination of what the Great Awakening is. So there's certainly meaning there in that. And then as far as A Course in Miracles, I have not read it myself. I've read portions of it. I've listened to lots of people who, like Aaron and others, who speak about it more in depth. I think I used to have reservations about it, because and this was back when I used to think that like Oprah was evil. I don't think Oprah is evil anymore. I think she was just playing that role, and I think she's actually quite good. And so because she endorsed that book and so many others, I was like skeptical of it. But at this point, I've never heard anything stated from A Course in Miracles that I disagree with, other than sometimes it uses a bit to, like, not that we have to say God, but there is this sort of like, and it doesn't come directly from the book, but there's a lot of leanings of people who want to go like everything is love and light, and it's all just sort of like, which it is, but I say it in that way of people who want to sort of, like, people who talk about the universe being God, and it is. So it's like, I don't even know what I'm really trying to say. I like it, and I think it has a lot of substance. I think it's helped a lot of people. It provides a lot of great tips of how to live and how to come back to the simplicity of everything, that everything is love. And this is just love learning to experience itself through many forms, and even through the absence of love. What is that like, so that I can deepen my connection with love? I very much agree with that. So yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say there. I think it has a lot of benefits from it. I've heard many wonderful things. I just haven't had the time to devote to going through it all myself, because from what I've seen, it's not really bringing me any new information, although I do think it's packaged in a way that could be quite helpful, especially for someone who just wants to go through a course where you're learning about that and stepping back into your power and the simplicity of everything and getting out of the victim consciousness and all of that. So that's my take there, but I don't really have much more to add on it, because I don't have a lot of details from reading it myself. So yeah, I'll just leave that one there and pass it back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Aaron he mentions so often, and he's read it numerous times, which seemed to inspire him to read, or to write rather, this, sufferer's solution, I think he calls the subtitle of the 3 beliefs of ego. I think I'm going to dive right in, actually, because it's actually just his interviews and promoting it has really shined a light on forgiveness, and it's changed my perspective on things, like, quite a bit, actually. It was almost like a switch. I'm not sure which interview, but I'm really grateful for it. So I'm looking forward to the book and your next conversation with him. All right, thank you again. Love you all.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. Great question. And we'll go with Rowan next. What's up, brother?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to have this is an enlightening conversation as usual. However, all of these being pushed to the cliff styles of subjects seem to keep coming up. And it's like that everywhere these days, online and in real life. And in Canada, I'm sure most people are aware of all these truck driving incidents, as they love to put them in the news, where I like to think that they're the fake news stories, but they're not. And it's so crazy how once you get the algorithm actually working in your favor to show you useful information, it actually is your tool. You are not being used by it. So just a little touch there on how AI, I think we brought up in a conversation before, I thought it was like bad, but no, now it's like, if there is real stuff, it will start to send you real stuff. Feed your eyes, feast your eyes on the right things, and don't get too carried away with it. But we Canadians, we are being pushed to the edge. Oh, we are. And it sucks not only because it's happening within our borders in Canada, but it's now happening outside of it, where more knowledge and wisdom is being disclosed about what the situation of the USA-Mexico border really is all about. And it's sure they always love to, with all these liberal woke media outlets say it's you know, it's just Mexican criminals and Venezuelans and Hondurans and like all these, you know, Latin Americans, Central Americans, South Americans. But no, I actually have a video. I found it, and I'm just gonna cry a little baby here. Give me a second. Oh boy, yeah, get ready, guys. I'm not a dad yet, but I'm saying, yeah, just get ready. That's loud. Anyways, so yeah, they are killing us in Canada with illegally licensed bus drivers, truck drivers, and taxi drivers, and Uber drivers. Like all these people got through the Mexican border, it seems. Of course, we have our own issues with our border, but yeah, no, they are. There's a TikTok or something that was reposted to Instagram where it showed all these Indian guys coming through one, you know, broken part of the uncontrolled or uncontrolled part of the border of Mexico and the USA, and they're all from India. They're all illegal immigrants from India, and Canada, we're being invaded. This is like, it's like an now or never type of situation where either we finally start to say something or we're going to lose our cultural identity. And I don't mean that by like as just a Canadian, but like, you know, we're all immigrants here. That's the point. And we did it the right way back then, as the laws were then, even though all this border stuff we know is insanity and shouldn't even be happening. But with how they've set everything up, they're trying to make us hate each other. And they are, you know, coming over the border. It's not families. They're all military-aged men. Like, they know how to fight if they wanted to, right? And so I'm on the edge of my seat right now, straight up. Like, people, like, even today, I was patient, and, you know, there's not a single Canadian that really goes on the bus anymore. I think I saw one or two today, but everyone else is not from here. And I'm always polite to people who have strollers and, you know, they have families, whatever. Yeah, you go first, ladies first, whatever. But this whole thing of, like, you give them an inch and they take a mile it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, how, like, that is just so true, is that they see that and it's like, oh, now I go. Oh, no, I go. And it's like when you share bubble gum with the whole class, or you share it with one person and now the whole class wants it. It's the same thing, right? But it's a respect thing, and they just cut right in front of you like you don't even exist. And now I'm finally starting to speak up, and like, this is a great conversation we're having, because we're all talking about, you know, taking our power back. But what they're trying to do to quote unquote white people is, when we stand up for ourselves, we're just racist automatically. Just by default, we're racist. Doesn't matter what type of white person you are, whatever, if you want to get all detailed and specific. But that's what they're doing, is they're weaponizing it's like what they do with every other country, these, you know, infiltrators that we all are aware of, since, you know, Israel's now being saved for last. So it's all happening perfectly. Like, I get how it's working, but yeah, they've made so many people leave. Like, I'm a minority in my own country. There's actually more, I think, Muslims in the UK than there are actual, like, British people or something now. Like, it's just insane. And I'm just wondering, like, how far is this going to go before the bubble just bursts? Because a lot of this is not fake news. Like, you see people finally have enough on it, and it sucks for both sides, because not everyone from these places are like that. And they did do things the right way. Like, I have plenty of friends who got their permanent residencies, and they did everything the right way. And they hate people who are ruining things more than I do, because, you know, they put in all the work to get in. And now they're seeing all these other, you know, they're not even families, they're just all mostly men. And they're getting free housing, they're getting paid by the government for nothing, and then they stand on the side of the street asking us for our money. Like, it's insane. They're trying to destroy Canada, they're trying to destroy the United States, and I know it's not going to actually happen, but it's like, they have to let things play out. And I'm getting to the point where, well, you know, we're talking about all these, well, authoritarian and communist things going on. And, you know, the Liberals here in Canada, what they love to do, Fidel Castro's son, Justin Trudeau, is we have all these, like, attempts of bills that have been proposed. Most of them have failed. But now there's some new ones coming up where they want to be able to, like what the UK does, where you can be reported for just, like, speaking freely. And it doesn't even have to be about anything that you're upset about regarding a particular group of people. It's like, it's so insanely unspecific and vague for what you can just be knock on your door for or something now. Like, I can't believe it. And they can also apparently go back into like your social media in the past before the law was made into law or whatever, and get you for that too or something. And so they're trying to do that in Canada and make it just like what you're discussing about how they made it illegal, like to question anything about Israel. Because they're a war state, and it has to be protected in order for the machine to continue. And oh my God, like, I'm not even trying to vent, but these people, and I am saying these people because they are from wherever they're from, right? It's just not from here. And they don't respect anything. They're destroying. They're taking all jobs. That no students in high school can get jobs right now. It's like, I don't even know how parts of the schools, like, the bullshit public school system is able to continue, because even part of it is, getting credits for a job with something like work experience, right? As part of your career planning is what it's called when I was in high school. So, yeah, they can't even do their career planning anymore. It's become so impossible to ignore. And it's not just one incident. Like, these truck drivers and bus drivers, like, they keep cutting across the highway and killing people. And they're just getting off the hook, while people who supported the trucker convoy, real Canadian truckers, they have their bank accounts frozen for dare saying anything. And, we got these rapists and murderers and criminals running around getting slaps on the wrist, and there's full-on automatic machine guns on the streets now. And I live in Surrey. I've heard gunshots multiple times where I live. Like, they're bringing their wars here. They're bringing all their stupid little politics that none of us Canadians give a shit about. And they should mind their own business and keep it where they come from. Seriously, they're killing us, and they're pushing us to the edge. They want us to hate them so that they can say that we're racist. I'm getting sick of it. I'm seriously getting sick of it. And that's it. So, yeah, like, how, that's the question. The quest to IR here is, how much longer is this really going to go on? Because someone's going to do something crazy. It's not going to be me. I can speak for myself. But I worry about others who can't control their emotions. And they almost got me, seriously, a few times. It's psychological, spiritual warfare. And they think they're going to win. But no, we are. Jesus wins. God wins. Right? But yeah, I'd love to hear people's opinion on this if you're from Canada or otherwise. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Rowan. Thanks for bringing that up and just giving a really clear insight into a day in the life in a space like that. And Canada, unfortunately, is so here in the U.S. we have only pockets of that. They're in the quote unquote sanctuary cities, the very deep blue areas, very leftist woke spaces, and so there's only, certainly all major cities, or not all of them, but majority of major cities are kind of like that. But everywhere else, it's not. And so we do have this sort of dichotomy. And I do feel like in the U.S. we've held our ground a bit more of intolerance towards that kind of stuff. It hasn't worked everywhere, but it's definitely limited it. Whereas Canada, besides maybe Calgary, the rest of Canada is very leftist, and rural anywhere, rural Canada, I'm sure is the same. They don't want to see that kind of stuff, but especially any denser populated areas and the surrounding areas of those, it is going to be like that. And that's the ideology that it's unfortunate, but people have to experience what they ask for. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and that's literally what we were tiptoeing to, was this destabilizing reality where these, as you mentioned, war-aged fighting immigrants, illegal immigrants, were inserted into these various spaces and then given handouts to attract them further by the same people who were looking to destabilize not just Canada, but then that leads into the U.S., which is the whole world. It's happening in Europe in various spaces. So every region is getting what they ask for through our complacency and through us not standing up and saying, I don't want this. So you're unfortunately a minority in that space, but that minority is growing. There are people who are learning no, we cannot tolerate this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, that has to be real. It can't just be me talking in a podcast. It can't just be anybody speaking on things to convince them. It has to be a real life consequence and feeling it. And yeah, it's tricky because while so much of this is scripted, orchestrated by the good guys, people's reactions to it and the sort of mechanisms of the cabal's plan are still allowed to go forward in a lot of ways. They're neutralized in the areas where it can cause the most harm, but where it doesn't, where it only maybe causes some harm, it's still allowed to go forward because we have to learn. So what point is going to break it? I don't know. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but the fact that you're feeling that intensity and likely speaking with others who are doing that, it means we're getting closer to it. You know, that they're not going to allow the whole system to devolve into chaos to where people are hurting each other. They're not going to let it descend into some zombie apocalypse where people are eating each other because they're unable to get food. That's a line that they will not let us get into. But will they let us get all the way up to that point, all the way up to the very, very edge of that? And as I mentioned before, push us off the cliff so that we experience that free fall sensation and have that will to change in that moment? Yes, absolutely. So it might get more intense before that point. I don't know. And as I said, every region kind of operates a little differently. So those regions that have the most of that sort of woke ideology and, oh, just let everybody in, and then that turns into criminals being let in, they're going to have the worst of it as far as dealing with that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I as I mentioned, it's not going to get to the point where it gets so crazy that people are en masse hurting each other, but limited instances still will happen. There still are crimes happening, rapes and murders that are happening by illegal aliens that are causing harm. It's happening, and it has to happen that way. It had to be done this way. And it's not the Q team orchestrating that. They're just allowing the plans of the cabal to move forward in limited cases because it helps us to learn. This is not about a quick fix. This is about us learning to not give our power and allow this kind of thing to happen ever again. That's the hope. That's the goal. If they just came in and fixed everything, and then if we didn't learn anything from it, then it would just take maybe a generation down the road before we'd fall back into this kind of mess again. So it has to be something that we feel substantially. So to your question of how long is that going to take, I have no idea. I mean, like I said, we know the point that it can't reach, the absolute descent into chaos, because the whole point of this operation is to reduce the casualties as much as possible. So they're not going to allow an event to cascade into something that's increasing the casualties. That just simply won't happen. They absolutely will step in if it gets to that point. But getting to that point is going to slowly keep heating up until then. So my suggestion for you, if that's a space where you're wanting to stay, then use it as an opportunity. Just going from like the video game model, look at it as an opportunity to level up your character. Each of those instances where somebody triggers you or, does something, I'm not saying that you need to just step aside and allow it to happen. Sometimes the right thing in that moment is to say, hey, like, whatever, I'm not advocating moving to violence or anything like that, but it might be to say to someone like, hey, no, that's not right. You can't just walk all over me. And there are other instances where it's best to just not ruffle the feathers too much, and so that's where we have that internal conflict of like, okay, what in this really is bothering me? Where am I becoming off-ended? How can I come back to center? and use this as a learning opportunity to refine my gifts and to steel myself and to have that that commitment and that fortitude. So that's what I like to shift whenever I'm in a challenging situation. I just always shift my perspective. I mean, not, I say always. Sometimes it's not hard to get there, but it does help when I get to that space of like, okay, this is happening for a reason. What can I learn from this? And then because I'm a video game nerd, I look at it as like an EXP farm. This is something where I can level up my character very effectively by going through this little gauntlet and this task and on this quest in this moment. So that helps to shift my perspective. So I'm not getting more agitated or worked up by it, but I'm allowing those emotions to flow through me and then transmuting them as necessary. And sometimes it still leads me to having a very, firm talk with somebody, or say something that I need to say, or whatever. I just, as an example, they had the blues festival here in Norwich, just nearby, which was phenomenal. Really, really fun time going to that. And there were these people talking like right next to the stage, and the musical artist was like telling a story, and then they were playing the song kind of like softly, and these people were going on this loud conversation right there. And I thought, well, I can either ignore it, I can move away from it, or I can say something. And I chose to say something, and they didn't like what I said, but they stopped talking. And I'm hopeful that they reflected on, because I told them, I was like, it's kind of rude for the artists if they can hear your conversation. You know, they came here to play for us, and other people want to listen to them. So if you want to talk, like, just please step away so you're not right here next to the stage. And they got kind of huffy and whatever, but they did. They moved away and they stopped talking. So whether they were actually able to hear that reflection to them in that moment and think, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be so rude and talking right next to the stage. Either way, it was a good opportunity for me to not just step on by or think somebody else is going to take care of that. Maybe this was the first time that they'd ever heard or considered that their voice carried like that, and maybe shouldn't be talking so close to the stage. So anyway, just a personal example of a situation where I viewed it as a opportunity to step in and do something, and do it in as best a way as possible to where it doesn't, where I'm not getting angry or anything like that. I said, please, thank you. But just offering that as well, if that is something that fits for you. And yeah, I feel for you. I feel for you and anyone who's near any city, probably worldwide. I mean, some cities are better than others, but the more densely populated, the more of that ideology, because cities are largely a construct by the cabal, or they have been taken over in that way to instill this ideology. So those things are going to be much more severe in those areas. So if you have the opportunity to just get away from the cities or from people and go out into the country or rural spaces, you'll find much more down to earth, and that stuff doesn't exist anymore, or at least not nearly as much. So yeah, I'll just leave that one there and pass it back to you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that, Justin. And it's I know that we can't have a definitive date for when that will all stop, all of this, but I have a problem with that, with the whole God working in his mysterious ways. If it could have been any other way it could have been type of thing, is I have so much, like, I'm feeling genuine fury for these cases that seem to have to happen as we are discussing it. Is that I don't find any benefit to that, except of course what you said is, well, we have to learn. And it sucks when all of the dickhead students at the back of the class who won't shut the fuck up are holding everyone else back. And that's basically what's happening. And it's made my patience and tolerance for anyone's bullshit just so short. Like, where, like, any type of, because it's not just this immigration thing. It's like it's any type of disrespect whatsoever. It's like I think what we're being taught is like it's not just about standing up against people who are coming into your country. It's like it's just about yourself. Like when you see any type of unjust thing, like good for you too, by the way. Like musicians should never have to deal with that. Like it's so obvious. You know when something is just so obvious, and you know you should not have to say anything. But then yeah, if like some guy's chatting with his friend by a music stage, it's like is that like a test? Because I swear that to me, I know it's like you can't prove each one of these, right? But I swear they're like tests by sneaky little bad guys that are trying to tempt people, like if you're being gang stalked or something. And you know, like I've had so many incidents now where like people have pushed my buttons, and I'm like, holy shit, like what the fuck is actually going on here? It's getting weird because it's not just one day, it's not just like the other day. There's been consecutive days now, and I think a few of us have gone through experiences like this where we're just being tested and tested and tested and tested, and we keep passing. And that's what I mean, is like I don't see, because I feel like I've learned and gained a lot of emotional maturity and patience from a whole lot of the stuff. And so to have to be like with you know, any other classroom setting where it's like you're sucked into, and it's like this in the military too. Like if one guy doesn't make his bed correctly, your whole platoon is screwed. Not only you're remaking your bed, you're scrubbing the floor with toothbrushes, and you know, like it's the same type of thing. That's what I feel like is happening on a societal level, where like we have all these idiots just holding us behind at this point. And I have sympathy for them, but oh my God, they're causing harm at this point. You know, when people are actually not only a threat to themselves but also others, that's where I just, that's my line. If you're going to cause harm, and that's what I'm freaked out about, is there's a guy in Toronto, this is just a few days ago, it's not the only case, but this guy broke into his house, and it was just like in the scene of Liar Liar, where his Jim Carrey's lawyer, his assistant, or yeah, his assistant is telling him about a friend that fell like a who had a house, and a thief broke into it and fell through the window and broke his leg and sued the homeowner and won. And so there's now cases of that actually happening. It's like, you know, it's a very Simpsons-esque kind of like thing, where now, you know, there's this guy here in Canada, not the only one again, who has been broken into, and he defended himself and didn't kill the guy. Should have, because these guys are murderers. That's the thing, is like, honestly, my tolerance for evil is like zero now. If you're gonna harm a woman or a child, or anyone for that matter, and you intend on stealing things from them, like you're already a grave robber. You deserve nothing. Like this is where demons reveal themselves, and they've been sent here in droves, like in caravans or by boat or submarine, like narco submarine shit. Fucking wild west things. Oh man, I'm trying not to be profane, but I think yeah, we're all so fatigued by this. And yeah, like I feel like they're trying to, it's not just happening to me. I'm sure there's so many of us who have gone through this, where, you know, we might not notice who's always looking at us, but yeah, I feel like some of us are actually being maybe monitored by some of these sneaky fuckers that are still around with the little bits of money that they have left to do their operations or whatever. It's just the hourglass is running out for them, and they're just doing the most that they can to cause as much chaos and destruction and confusion, and they're going at the people who are trying to help others the most. And we're not trying to help people forcefully, but we are commenting on Facebook. We're on, like, you know, whatever platform we're on, and I've said quite a few things now where I'm not the only one saying it, you know, like I'm very smart before I comment, because these algorithms always, like, they warn you before you post anything that makes sense or is telling the truth. Like, it's just crazy.
Oh.
Oh. Oh, I thought, oh, no, okay, never mind. But, yeah, so, anyways, there's so many of us who I think we're being pushed and pushed and pushed, and they're, like, building a profile on us, like, whoever they are, the ominous they, right? Because we here in Canada, we actually have had, I don't know if they're still around, because things get put up online and taken down so quick, we have CPP police stations. Like, there's straight up Chinese police stations here. Like, there's all kinds of things that are going on in Canada. Like, we are the weirdest battlefield that I think actually exists right now, because it's so, like, peaceful on the outside, but there's, like, this crazy, oh man. So anyways, I'm trying not to get distracted. It's just these they're trying to like maybe, well, with the laws in the UK, all the stuff is they are dating it back to whatever post you might have said, that even if it's not like considerably anything remotely racist, they'll try to go after you for it. And they're trying to do the same thing here in Canada. So I'm thinking, like, does it even matter, like, if you delete your social media? Because everything has a footprint online. You know, there's all of us, we're trying to not be so sucked into the phone and all this and delete all that stuff. But it's like, I'm wondering, like, is that even going to matter? Like, is one day someone's going to knock on my door and say, "Hi, we're knocking on your door because you stuck up for someone's family who was murdered." Like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, because it's happening in the UK, and I'm wondering when, if it will, better not happen here. But yeah, it's like they're testing here, this, you know, little strategy here to mess with people's minds, and then doing something slightly different here, and it's being allowed to happen. And that's what I mean, is the harm that's being allowed to happen. Is there some kind of karma that's being built up for supposedly these good people who have to allow these things to happen? Like, to me, that just seems so inverted, and I really struggle with even looking at that. It seems evil to me, and I've had enough. Yeah. So yeah, I'll pass it back. I'm trying not to tangent this. You can easily go off road here, so I'll let it go. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, please.
Hey, everybody. So I have a couple of ideas that are relevant to this topic. First of all, I've heard from some very reputable sources that America will be dealt with first, that America has to clean its own house first. And then once America is in order, then it will go throughout the world and clean out the cabal everywhere else. And that by the end that all is said and done, Israel may not exist anymore. Islam will be severely curtailed, and that European Christianity will be pushed to the brink of existence, and that we will have a near-death experience. And that's because we live in a universe of perfect justice, and we're all being treated with exactly as much respect as we deserve. There's a saying that hard men create good times create soft men create hard times, and then hard times create hard men. And that this cycle of repetition can be anywhere, 5 to 10 generations. But that this time, what's changed the cycle is that for the first time in quite some time, it's happened in conjunction with the Industrial Revolution, the information age, the quantum blockchain age. And what has happened is we've ended up with a cycle of hard times in a worldwide state. And what happens is that so we're about to go through a near-death experience in which hard men will have to do hard things in order to create good times. Now our sons will witness us doing this. And so our sons will preserve the goodness that we fight for. However, their sons will not have witnessed the battle. They'll have never witnessed the war. They won't remember it. And so then the softness starts to creep in. And when the softness reaches to a certain point, then those soft men create hard times and the cycle repeats. And that's just the way that it is. Now, what makes the man a hard man? I mean, he's a hard man that's creating good times, but what's so hard about him? And what's hard about him is that he takes the ideas such as intolerance, right? And he takes the idea of intolerance, and right now intolerance is serving the bad side, right? The bad people are the most intolerant, right? And good people, well, we think it's good to be tolerant, right? And because we're trying to be good, we're being tolerant and we're letting evil people into our communities, right? Because we were soft, because we deserve it. Now, the hard man, though, he takes this idea of intolerance and he captures it and he makes it serve goodness. He also takes the idea of physical force, what some people call violence, and he takes violence and he makes it serve goodness. And that creates good times. A soft man can't do that, and soft people won't do that. And so, you know, as even though we're good people and we're being treated very disrespectfully and very harshly and very unjustly, it's actually exactly what we deserved because we let it happen. It's our fault, it's our responsibility, and it's never going to change until we do something about it. Now, something is being done about it. There are very strong, righteous, hard men doing exactly what needs to be done in order to push back this darkness. But it's going to start first in the United States. That war will be won here first. And then from the United States, then the light will spread out into the rest of the world. But Europe and Canada, you're going to have to wait your turn until you can take care of matters yourself in conjunction with what the White Hats have planned. But this is not going to be fun, but that's part of what it means to be a man. We have to be honorable, and we have to be virtuous, and we have to be strong. And when it's in service to that which is good, we also have to be hard.
Yeah, well said. It's yeah, it is. It's challenging. I get that. It's very challenging to see and to feel like there should be more done about that. But that just know that you're ahead of the curve of getting to that space. There are many who are getting to that space as well, but the external events need to keep moving forward until the majority are getting to that space. So everyone is saying, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. So you're at that state. So then once you reach that state and you're sort of in the what might feel like limbo of waiting for the others to catch up, well, this is the challenge that any budding Christic individual has to go through, as we can all imagine Christ went through when he's going and speaking to the people, speaking to his disciples, and then probably facepalming many times because they're just not getting it. And they're doing things that are hurting each other, and they're just not getting it. So that's where it can present a challenge to us. That's the advanced course. It's like, okay, now that I'm here and I have this perspective, how can I maintain the knowing that even those people that are pissing me off because they're not getting it and they're hurting each other and whatever, that's all still a part of you. They're not separate from you. So how can I still maintain this compassion, not necessarily deviating away from being a force to be reckoned with? If I need to flip over some tables, then I need to flip over some tables. If I need to speak firmly to somebody, I need to do that. Whatever the case may be, but how am I holding that within me? If that's leading me to resentment or deep anger that I'm not transmuting, then that's my work. That's my work to shift that, to come back to, even though I'm witnessing fallen man, it's still me. It's still us. So to have that compassion and to learn to stay in that space of centeredness throughout all of that. Again, not the religious perspective of Jesus being this pushover. It's not that it doesn't mean that we be a pushover. In fact, we actually should be more vigilant and strong through that. But it's like, what is happening within me? Is that violet chakra, the highest chakra, is that becoming violent? Because I have the perspective to see. I'm witnessing from a higher vantage point. So am I going to look down my nose and ridicule and mock and be irate and all of that? And I'm not judging you. Please, I go through the same thing many times. So please know that. But it's part of that task is once we have that awareness, how can I transmute that so I'm not looking down on, but I'm doing what I can to lend a hand up. And sometimes lending a hand up means knocking a bully down and say, quit fucking being a bully. Quit picking on people. Sometimes that's what's necessary, but we also have to be strategic in that too. Where are my capabilities of doing something like that in this moment? If I have a clear opportunity, then I take it. If I don't, then I have to. I don't have to, but it's best if I reflect on that situation and acknowledge that, okay, I don't have the resources or the backup to take care of this fully in this moment. So the divine is giving me a vantage point into it, but not actually asking me to do something about it in this moment. But those clear-cut examples where it's like I am being called to do something, I have the resources behind me, I have the ability to make something happen, then we do it with gusto. And we use the appropriate force necessary to stop any violence or harm from being committed. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to everything. It's all conditional based on what's happening. But as long as we're staying connected and letting the divine lead us and acknowledging where our emotions are taking us and transmuting them so that it can be the most effective vehicle for us to be energized to do what we need to do, that's the path. That's the path. And how can I do that without becoming so dismayed and frustrated that I look down on my fellow man? You know, we didn't come to elevate ourselves to go off on the mountaintop and just meditate because we're so sick of people. That's the sort of inverted Buddhist path, which there's nothing wrong with Buddhism, but the inverted path is that you're supposed to just negate the world of everything and negate connections with everything because it's just full of suffering. No, we're supposed to find that peace within, go to the mountain when we need to, just like Christ did. Find that resolve, find that space of centered nature, but then come back into being with the people. And this actually touches on a great question that I had from Frances. And she asked, how do we know when we're supposed to be meditating or finding stillness or when we're supposed to be out with the people? She regularly goes out and spreads awareness of child trafficking and things of that nature. And she was like, well, how do I know when I should be doing that or when I should be finding that peace and that stillness within? And I gave her that same example. The same example that Christ taught us. In those moments where we're feeling inspired and we're like energized to be with the people and to do and to take action, then we do that. But as soon as we start to feel drained or overwhelmed, then we need to go to the mountain and be with our Father. We need to go into that space of stillness. We need to go on a walk, go listen to music, go to your meditation space, whatever that looks like. And it can look in a huge variety of different ways. I'm not suggesting any one protocol or method is the one end all be all one method. It's what is your method for coming back to that space of centeredness? How can you come back to that space of stillness? How can I find that peace again? Because if I don't have that, then I'm not a very effective method. I'm not a very effective tool for the divine to wield. If I'm chaotic, then I'm just going to my internal chaos is going to be imbued into all my actions, which will just make everything more chaotic. So it's my responsibility to know where are my limits. When do I need to step away? When do I need to find that centered space so that I can go into the world and interact with that for the better, to bring that peace into those spaces. So it's a cycle. It's the sine wave. It's the breath. It's oscillating. It's going back and forth. There's times where I'm in it. There's times where I'm outside of it, and I have to, I get to find that balance between and recognize where am I in my cycle. And the cycle doesn't have to just last a moment or an hour or a day or a week. It can be longer cycles as well. And it looks differently for different people. And so I just wanted to add that into the mix as well, because I thought it was a good example to draw upon. And, yeah, it's the same sort of thing here. So if you find yourself overwhelmed with what's happening in the out there, then I'd suggest like finding that quiet space to where you can really get still and know that there's really nothing to worry about. I mean, nothing that happens in the external is even really real in a sense. I mean, it is real because we're experiencing it, and the consequences of whatever happens are very real, but it's not so real to take you away from the fact that you are a limitless aspect of consciousness. And this is all just a vision. It's a dream. It's an experience to have. So if I get so invested and consumed by it that everything has to matter and everything has to, then that's the sort of over attachment that we can get into this space. So how can I let go of that attachment, come back to that space of peace? And then that bleeds into everything else. And the byproduct, since everything in the external is a reflection, then that starts to manifest in the external. And I'm not having those encounters anymore. Those buttons that you mentioned, they don't exist anymore because you've learned to work through them. So if I can have gratitude for those opportunities of how this person pisses me off when they do this, or this action happens, if I can release that, well, it turns out that that's not going to happen as much anymore because I don't need to experience that. My buttons don't exist. So that's where we can find the divine nature, even in the Antichrist, even in that anti-figure. That's still part of God. That's still part of this story. And it's there to inspire you to let go of those buttons, to let go of those bothers and things that annoy you and frustrate you and piss you off. Not that we don't do anything about them, but we transmute how we internalize it, and that allows us to find the most effective method of dealing with them. Sometimes it's just as simple as letting them go. Sometimes it's flipping over tables, and all in between. But we'll find the right method when we're in that space of peace. So just wanted to offer that as well. And just thank you for the topic. It's great to go into this. I'll see if you have any thoughts on what's been shared, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, is to become a master of your buttons, and then to not even, it's incapable to have them pushed. But I think there's a fine line of that where it's like, I think I said this earlier, but it's that saying of giving an inch and then taking a mile. And that's the thing. It's like, you can't be perfect all the time, where you're trying to decide where you choose the battles, right? And we are now at the point where people are being killed. And this is way past the flipping tables period. It's like, it infuriates me, like how I feel like I would not be myself if I did not feel anger righteously towards something that's absolutely not right. Because if I didn't, like that is what all these fluorinated, calcified zombie people, who I still somehow have sympathy for, like I think most of us do. It's very difficult to have, though. That's what that makes me feel like. That's not me casting a spell on myself, or like, oh, like if I do this, it can only be this way, or if I don't do this, it can only not be that way. It's like I don't feel normal if I was to feel like actual anger to it, and to not let my I mean, it's how do you make that division where you don't allow your buttons to be pushed? But if you don't have buttons that can be pushed, like where someone does something really awful and you just do nothing about it, well, I think you're worse than that person. It's like we allowed, people voted or made their votes for liberals, whatever. So we have to live with other people's stupid decisions. So yeah, they have to live out their choices and learn their lessons. But the fact that it has to drag everyone else down with it, and then we also have to still be the ones who take the high road, not only to forgive them, but then to not let our buttons be pushed. But some of those buttons are straight up about life and death. Like, if you push that button, it's me or you. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, this is not about hatred. This is not about violence. This is like, if you're anyone who's causing harm like this, like, I don't think you really deserve to be here. Like, pardon me, it's not my place to judge you, but watch your fucking back. If you're harming people like that, you got your shit coming, and I know it's like, it's the only way they can learn too, right? So it's just infuriating me that, like, oh, man, I'm trying to find words for some things, and it's just not working right now. But yeah, no, I have a very low tolerance for people who purposefully push buttons just to try to ruin your life. You know what I mean? Like those people are demons. They're not human. I swear to God, they're not human. And yeah, I thought I heard a microphone crack a little bit earlier. That might have been somebody who wanted to say something. So I'll free it up there. Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I very much do. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting not doing something if that's the case, but what you are presenting is hypothetical. If you come across somebody being murdered or raped, then absolutely you take the appropriate action needed to stop that up to the point of ending that individual's life. There's nothing outside of what I'm saying to not do that. I'm saying what is the internal thing happening within you? That's where we can transmute that. It doesn't change the actions required of what I do when I'm approached with something like that, but where am I internalizing that? And so focusing on hypothetical scenarios is like, you see how you're getting worked up more about those things that aren't actually real in this moment. They are happening, but I also add the other layer to that much of what we're seeing is also fabricated too. It's a combination. So it's being hyper focused and hyper exaggerated so that we have these sensations, so people are inspired to do something. And at the same time, a lot of that is orchestrated in order to create that illusion for good, so that we reach that point. So if we can step outside of it and have that high vantage point of what's happening here, see the effects, and then if you want to take it a step further, really gain perspective. You mentioned the karma of the white hats for allowing these things to happen. Like, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact figures of how many children were bred underground. I've heard millions and I've heard billions with a B. People bred in captivity in cages underground in these massive human farms, all for purposes of sexual exploitation and adrenochrome harvesting. So that's the monster that was underneath us and what we are up against and have been up against. That monster has largely been dealt with, but the perspective of like, oh, are we going to get all up in arms because some people are getting hurt as we learn these lessons? I totally respect the decisions that are being made so that we don't fall into that hellhole again, to where so many people, so many children are being hurt. So I'm sure it's very challenging for good people to allow things like this to happen. But they also have the full perspective of what we're coming from and what we better not fall back into again. So it's absolutely necessary. That's why Q said it had to be done this way. And it's going to be very, very hard for people to wrap their heads around it when they realize that a lot of these things were white hat orchestrated. There's going to be so many angry people out there saying, why did you let grandma die? Why did you let this happen? Why didn't you say something sooner? Why didn't you pull this out? Why didn't you reveal yourselves? Why didn't you bring the military out? Why didn't you stop these things from happening? And that's going to be a hard one for to just sort of explain away without the full context of where we come from. But that's also going to be presented. This is what we were up against. This is the hellish reality that we're only getting a tiny taste of. A tiny taste of. Versus what was actually happening beneath our noses for so long. And nobody was doing shit about. Nobody even cared. Nobody even listened to it. So now we're getting a small taste of that hellish experience so that we don't recreate that hell again. And I'm very supportive of that. And I will continue to be very supportive of that. And I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just giving the full context of where I'm coming from with acknowledging that, yes, it sucks that people are getting hurt. It sucks that crimes are happening and people are being harmed through these things. But we earned this, as Darth said. We earned every bit of this. The mother that lets her child be vaccinated and then that child dies. As much as that is a shitty situation to go with, and how there's many people to blame for that thing happening, ultimately we're to blame. We don't have anywhere else to look. We allowed that child to go into a system. We gave our trust away. We swore away. We gave away our duty as a parent to that child and allowed it to be twisted and harmed by a system that cares nothing more but to create a better slave. We did that. So we don't have anywhere else to look or to blame or to get upset about. And if it needs on a spiritual higher level for that child to die, to activate that mother to be a huge advocate against vaccines and to be one of the biggest speakers against that, then that's the necessary catalyst so that we don't go through that shit again. So you take that example and you apply it all the way across the board. If somebody has to die to act as a catalyst, I'm not saying that I'm advocating for that to happen, but I see the cause and effect of why we get to that space. I see why it's necessary for those, even those who have the ability to stop those kind of things, to allow that to run its course. Because this is not about a quick fix. And we're not limited, finite beings, limited to a singular lifetime. So they're looking at a much larger scale than, oh, this one individual, let's protect this one individual and thwart the longer term moving through this so that we can get to heaven on earth where nobody is like that, where children aren't bred in captivity, where people aren't injected with poisons. I want to get to that space, but the only way we get there is if we all learn. The only way we get to that point is if we learn the hellish reality that we were allowing into our homes. And the only way we learn, because we've chosen the stubborn route of not paying attention, not listening, because they've been trying to tell us for decades, if not longer, the Christic elements have been trying to tell us forever. Hey, you're an aspect of the Creator. Quit living like that. Quit hurting each other. That's always been the message. And then the antichristic message is like, no, you're actually a separate being, and you need to take advantage of this creation, and we're going to take advantage of you, and it's just dog eat dog, and everything's shit. These two messages fighting against each other since the dawn of time. So I get why this has played out. I get we've allowed the Antichrist into our space, those demons, as you mentioned. We've all become that to some degree. And some of us are starting to realize that. We're coming out of it. And it's very painful to watch others who are still in that demonic state, still acting demonically towards each other. But the only way we learn to not be demonic is if we see it. The demons were hiding themselves. The orchestration was obscuring where that was happening. That was the only way that we as Christic beings inherently could be deceived and fall into the antichristic reality. That's the only way, is if it was hidden. The devil is the deceiver. But now it's starting to become more apparent, and it needs to. It needs to become very apparent. It had to be done this way. So yeah, I'll just end on that one. And there are a few other people that have had their hands raised, so I just want to make sure we have time for them as well. But I'll pass it to you, Ron, if you have any final comments on that before we move on.
Yeah, this is a large subject that we'll just continue to see unfolding. So, yeah, no, that particular question we can save for another time. Like, I know other people have their questions, and maybe just save it for the next show. I'll just say it out loud, but we'll come back to it then. Is there karma for these people who are allowing these bad things to happen, like when you see in a movie? Like, I think how am I forgetting the name of this one? We had, that's incredible. Can't remember. Oh yeah, it was Bruce Willis. And they had to watch these guys being executed with the same rules that they had with you have to be fired upon first. And it's like, whoever's listening, if you've been through that situation and you've served and you've had to do that to save other people, I respect you so much. I can't imagine what you go through and how you live with that every day. And that's what I mean. Is like, I don't want bad karma for those people who had to let those things happen. Like, I'm so tied up about this type of stuff. These people who are basically almost funneled and forced into, hard men who create good times. That's who I'm talking about. And they're the Ghost Recon. They're the Tom Clancy, heroes that we will never know the names of. And so whoever's listening, if you have to keep your safety, and not Announce yourself. Know that we know that you exist and we love you. So that's it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We can certainly go into this in larger detail in the next show if you'd like. But short answer, no, they're not incurring karma by allowing these things to happen. Nobody's responsible for anybody else. So by allowing things to happen, it's like, are you incurring karma for allowing someone addicted to heroin to continue using heroin? It's like, they have their free will decision, and there are larger ramifications for involvement within, more things. But when you have the insight into, or the oversight of how this is all operating, no, there's no negative karmic consequences for moving in this direction, because it's all divinely led through these actions, and people are just doing their best to navigate in that space, just as we all are. But I'll just leave that one there. And I know there were a few other people who had their hands raised, so I want to make sure we have time for that. We just have a little bit of time left today. So I'll pass it over to Cheryl. Did you want to jump in?
Hey, Justin. I've been watching my grandchildren, and Mom came home, who we have a fragile relationship anyway, but because of 2021 mainly, but she is a child of divorce also. But so I just try to maintain the relationship so I can be with the children. But she comes in screaming, and I've been trying to the whole thing is, and you said it beautifully, talking Rowan, it's like, this is for me, and I've been learning this to keep myself calm and to wait till the steam settles down so I can talk to her when she can hear me, if she can hear me. Anyway, all that to say, if you have any other input than that, I appreciate it. But I sent you questions earlier, but yeah, I'm really trying to help the children, because my heart just breaks for them, and trying to learn my lessons well so I can help. Anyway, thanks, but it was an accidental push. But since you had that conversation, I decided to give a little input there. It's very difficult talking to somebody when they're not on the same frequency, and there's a lot of angst going on, just because of the high energy that they're in from the whole situation that's going on now, and from their own choices in their own life. But boy, it sure is helpful to me to know that this is all a personal journey, and our energy continues on. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, on that specific scenario, the best thing that you can do is model that for the children in those moments where somebody might be yelling at you or getting upset about these different things. And if you can model that in a peaceful way, holding your ground where you need to, but also acknowledging if somebody's going to throw a fit about something, that will be the mirror. And if you can provide that model for them, then they have the children viewing that, or if they did or didn't, it doesn't really matter, but they have the viewing of it, of the contrasting element of their mom freaking out about whatever. And then they have you who's not going to, and just saying, okay, well, we can talk about this some other time, or I'm not going to engage at that level. So to give that is hugely valuable. So trust that the same applies for children, for all of us. Everyone's getting exactly what they need. We get to see what we need to see, learn from what we need to, or we get to learn from what we can. doesn't mean that we have to learn from everything that we're seeing, but that's the movement through it. And those lessons are going to show up in however many ways they need to until we integrate and move through them. And that's our higher self shifting through that and leading us through these different opportunities so that we can get what we need to and transmute that. So yeah, I mean, with anything, just keep doing your best and step in and hold that and reflect on those moments. Or if I lose my composure or find myself falling into something that I don't feel, if I have that point where I can reflect on things, then I do that. And if not, if I feel like I'm operating in the best way that I possibly can, then sometimes the lesson is just to have patience for those to move through it in ways. And as I mentioned before, when we have the vantage point, to not fall into the violet turning violent, where we look down in disdain on others around for not being at our level of awareness. It's very easy to fall into that. But the more that we can maintain that connection and knowing that it's all just you, it's all us just experiencing ourselves in different ways, and then we can have that compassion for those things and know that it only comes from some hurt within. The only way that we can hurt someone else is if we are ourselves hurt. So yeah, I'll just offer that one. And yeah, I do have your written questions that you sent me. I was planning on getting to those today, but I don't know if we're going to have time to. So I might save them because there are a bunch of them and they're good. So I might save them for next show, just so we can get into them in more detail. But since there were a few other people who had their hands raised, I want to see if we have any more comments. So Tracy, we can go to next. What do you want to share?
Okay. I'm trying to keep up here. I'm a little bit groggy, but yeah. So, a couple points was, yeah, I love that when you said when you like to view things. Sometimes I'm not going to phrase it right. Sorry, I had it in my head, but I'm laying here and so comfortable at the moment. I'll get to that too. There's a reason why I have more comfort than normal. I did something. I changed something in my house. So, but I want to get to the video game comment when you said you look at it like you are in a video game, and I just did that recently. Like, I think you've brought that up before, but I didn't click into it, whatever. But recently I did, because as I've mentioned, I've gone through some challenges here and got in a few accidents and recovered from that and whatnot. So I expressed, like, just last week, or was last week or the week before, whatever. I was making comments that I was falling into bitterness and resentment. And I wanted to clarify, not about the movement or the timing of anything, because I truly have, thankfully, been able to stay in the mode of, even though of course I have felt frustration and lack of patience, lots of different things in lots of areas of my life and experiences when I'm going through my day-to-day, but still, for the most part, I'm able to get to a place of peace and calm and get proper perspective. So I don't freak out about necessarily the sort of timing of stuff. But yes, I hear you, Rowan, about what you are experiencing, because it's full on for you. You're experiencing it day to day, and you're having this pattern, like you felt, like you said, it feels so creepy because it's happening so frequently that you suspect that it could be like a planned thing, like there actually is somebody, involved in sort of testing you, like you said, because it's happening so frequently. So I can appreciate what you're experiencing. I appreciate, and thank you for sharing it, and showing how you truly feel, because that is very real and very crucial. Not just to like skim over or paint over how you're feeling, it's important. And as well, so getting back to like, for myself, when I was falling into the bitterness and frustration, it was mostly about being injured. It was my personal bitterness and frustration and resentment at my physical state mostly, which of course affects my mental and emotional state. So I was getting into a loop of that kind of bitterness and frustration of my healing process and my challenges here, really struggling financially, was struggling with the new place and new everything and trying to get settled and all that. So everything was just kind of not working out well and not sleeping. So all of it really put me in a state where I had to, it was really, I don't want to say there was I wasn't angry at myself because I knew that I wasn't blaming myself for the state that I was in. So I wasn't angry at myself per se, but the level of emotion because of the cycle that I was in of it just seemed like everything going wrong all at once continuously. Getting myself into that mode just like about a week ago, I was like, okay, it really shifted my frequency. Picturing being in the video game, even just made it much more comical, and so because I was getting freaked out even just to leave my house, I was freaked out to get another accident again, and just like I said, everything was kind of so new here, and I'm trying to find my way for this and that, and having a crazy thing happen, like going to pay my phone bill, for example. I was going to pay my phone bill in person, in the actual shop where I got the account set up. It's called 3G here. So I go to the 3 shop, find it in this mall. It was really difficult to try to find this location. Finally found it. Paid the bill, and only for them to go, no, you didn't pay it. No, we don't have record of it. I'm like, what? I went right into, what are you talking about? You guys are a freaking phone company. It's 2025. I kind of lost it at the phone. I was like, for the very reason of not going to some random 7-Eleven or whatever, just paying it that way. You can. There's some locations you can pay these bills because I don't have a credit card. I don't have certain things set up for the automatic pay, kind of the thing. So I'm doing these things manually. And I'm thinking that it's going to be the way, it's going to be for sure, it's going to be fine. Well, it's happened 4 times since January where I've gone in to pay my bill and they've lost my payment for a week. And then they cut my Wi-Fi off. It's really frustrating. So the system, the matrix, and what I was judging as complete incompetence. I was getting very frustrated. So I did voice it, and I was better than I have been in the past. So, I did get a little bit frustrated at the person on the phone, and I made sure to say, listen, I know it's not you. I'm just frustrated at this because I have to spend X amount of time. I was injured. I'm going out in torrential rainstorms, going out in typhoons to go pay these fucking bills. And and then for have them nope, it's not been paid. I'm like, what? So being able to kind of corral all of this kind of emotion that I'm having, sort of just dealing with simple stuff. Really, these are just simple things. They shouldn't be, setting me off or anything. So I had to get into that video game mode, and it's helped me tremendously. So, so then I wanted to also say there's the improvement that I made to something that changed was I had switched to a different bed when I moved here, and it's just just an IKEA bed with a really firm twin size mattress. It's quite small, it's a little loft bed. They don't even make them anymore. They're discontinued, but it was really nice, white wood, 7 feet high loft bed where you can have a space underneath and have your bed on top. Well, I'm not physically. I was using a bed like that before. I had one before. Back when I was studying Q, I lived on top of that little loft bed for years. I barely left. I had a helper at that time, and I was really sick at the time, though. I was really sick, and I was actually bedridden. I was house-ridden for years. So So I had a helper at the time that would bring me food. So I didn't have to go upstairs to get it. So I wasn't even capable. So it was like just brutal. Anyway, so I lived on top of that loft bed. So I have a new one, brought it here, and switched from like having a big king size bed before. So I had to get rid of that because it wouldn't fit in this place. And so I brought the topper. Those spongy toppers from that bed, and I put it on here. And it definitely was part of, like, not the only reason, but a part of my not sleeping well while being injured. Because I have other issues as well, physical issues, chronic issues that have gone on for a long time, that I should have only a firm bed. It's what's best for me. So I kind of, went back on that, like I kind of knew better, but I was using it, and it was not working. And so I took it off, and I'm sleeping much better. I'm still not getting, I still have issues, but much better. So that's, some people really like them because you feel when you lay on them at first, they feel really soft and cushy, and think, oh, this is like, it's like lying on a cloud and all that kind of stuff. But as your spine settles incorrectly, and if you have, like myself, these physical issues, it was absolutely not helping the situation. So, so I'm happy to report that. But there have been some reports of a lot of people feeling the same way. I was looking online about stuff like this, but, it's just kind of, it's something that I brought with me. So I thought, well, I've got to use it, so I'll put it on top of the bed. So what the solution that I took was I took it, because it's so large, like it is king size. So I rolled it up. Like a long, like tube, like, if you will, and then placed it over against the wall, and then slid the mattress in, and then kind of used it as sort of like a rolled up sort of effective, not necessarily extending the mattress, if you will, but a place that was like elevated a little bit because it was rolled in a certain shape, and have some pillows on it. So I kind of have extended the size of the bed, if you will, but it's an excellent cut for me because I'm so small. So I can lay on the bed in almost any position now, and I have extra space for it being a twin size. So I can elevate my legs up there, put some pillows to elevate my legs and stuff. So I've been able to figure out and worked it out in a way that it was difficult the rest of the thing, but it was just a simple little tweak, and it's been very helpful. And another thing about what you're saying about being able to transmute, and what has helped, I've expressed it before, is the moments where I have looked around, if I have not been I'm not feeling so good being out in public and being on the MTR, which is the subway here, and being in, getting out into the more matrixy areas, if you will, than others. There's some areas here that it's so full on, but I express that, seeing other people as me, and like, yeah, that's me over there, and yeah, that's me over there. And I had like really beautiful moments of feeling very in touch with each individual, and really connected that in that moment of, yeah, that's me, and that's me in another life, and that's me in another life, that's me. So it really helped tremendously, and I constantly do that. And because I was going through like a few months here of really difficult challenges, it was difficult to go out in public, and with the whole moon and everything being in like the whole crazy, I'm not going to say it right, if it's a Mercury retrograde or Saturn, whatever was going on the past couple of months, everything was like, it felt like every single thing I touched would fly out of my hands, and I would drop it, like, not just in a simple way, it would fall to the ground. It would fly across the room, or like I was more clumsy than normal. Like, it was maddening, but I had to just like laugh at it, just constantly keep laughing at it. And it was very helpful to do that, because if someone was actually watched me in action, they'd be like, wow, what a shit show. But going back into that being able to transmute it and having these tools has been able to get me through this past couple months, because it was fucking brutal. Really, really brutal. But I really feel like I've come on the other side of it. Sorry, I wanted to get back to was when I felt like I was being really challenged going on in public. I just stopped going. I went, you know what, if I don't have to go do X, Y, and Z, if it's not something I have to, it has to be built, bill being paid on time, whatever, I've got X, Y, and Z in my fridge. If I don't have to get the extra that I wanted for tomorrow, I can make do today or whatever it is. And even as much as like trying to get myself for the workouts at the beach and stuff, and the time frames in the day when I could fit between the rainstorms that were coming and stuff like that. So I was always kind of trying to like focus on my scheduling of the day, to a point where I have spoken on this before, where I get really frustrated if I get late and stuff like that, but then it always turns out to be perfect timing anyways. But I feel like recently I've had to just not worry about it. And because I'm in this, like I said, this very peaceful location, I use that as to my advantage, and would be like, okay, if I can't make it to the beach for swim today because of X, Y, and Z, like, it's okay. I'm just going to sit and meditate. And like I said, the sun started to change a bit and come to a different angle as the season's changing. So I'm able to utilize my little space here in a way, even though it's not ideally what I wanted to do that day. I made it so it was still very beautiful. I was able to meditate. I was able to do some incredible bird watching, and just being, just being okay with that, and stop trying to force certain things upon myself, even though, like I said, I was challenged to do so because I needed to push myself, because when you're in a very uncomfortable place, especially physically, you've got to push through that barrier, that pain barrier, because you will get to the other side. The healing will come through that, but it's really hard sometimes. So just letting myself be and not getting too caught up with what I think it has to look like. And that's just been really helpful. So thank you, Rowan, for that share, and thank you everybody else. And that's mine. Love you guys.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I always love your reflections, and I'm glad the video game model has helped you, because it certainly helps me. Just takes the edge off, and we get to have a little more fun with it, because it's like, okay, the video game has brought me this character, whether that's somebody pissing me off or by saying this or that or whatever the case may be. It's bringing me that experience so that I can do something with it. And sometimes the doing something with it is just being at peace with it, so it doesn't continue to manifest. But all of it just helps to make things, at least for me, a lot smoother. So I'm glad it helped you as well. And appreciate the reflections on it all, and glad you found some comfort with your sleeping situation. Yeah, definitely agreed. We're not meant to have these overly soft, fluffy mattresses that seem to, like you said, they feel good at first when you lay down, but then you sink into it, and all of your your alignment with everything is just so distorted, and then we wake up in pain and all that. So firmer is ideal for most. And just appreciate you for sharing. So we are out of time today. I wanted to, I see you, Tina, had your hand raised. If you don't mind coming on next week, that would be lovely, because I always love hearing from you. Unless you just have like a quick few second thing that you want to share. Otherwise we can wait. No worries.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll just say something real quick, because I really appreciated the first song. I don't know if you played a second song, because my daughter was here. She moved her house here today, and that lifted a whole darkness that's been here for 38 years. I could feel it, and I heard the word free in your song, and it lifted. When I heard that, the darkness had already been lifted, because the house had got here, and I could see the change in my husband. He's been a narcissist demon his whole life, and I've had lots of problems, I told you, with him, and So when that lifted today, and then I heard that song, you play that beautiful song in the beginning, I said, my daughter walked in for a second when it was on. I said, listen to this, Justin's channel. The song is gorgeous. It's perfect for right now. And that was a prayer answered. And she had a prayer answered about money that the guy was going to charge bringing. He waived it. And I also got another prayer answered that I prayed 2 weeks ago, that my nephew, that's like in his early 50s, has been a junkie and burglarized everybody in Florida, in this whole area, for the last 30 years and got away with it and hasn't been to jail. And, you know, my son went through all that jail prison stuff 25 years ago, and he's came out of it great. And I prayed 2 weeks ago, let Jesse get arrested and straighten him up for once in his life. And today, of all days, when this miracle came in, that also came. That's a miracle for me. You know, when I see stuff like that answered so quickly, and it's so important to us. And I recognize that, I appreciate that, you know, it was done, and it came in today. You know, he was arrested for burglary, breaking of a dwelling. So, and he's in jail right now. And it made me laugh. But anyhow, today has been wonderful, powerful words of wisdom from everybody. And I love everybody here. And I wanted to touch on some things, but I'll do it next time because I know we were in here really late today. And I got to go out and feed my chickens and roosters for the second time. It's getting late. I love you all. Thank you, Justin. So wonderful. And I love how you explained everything.
Oh, thanks, Tina. I appreciate that. And thanks for reflecting on the music. Yeah, that was the artist Phish. The first song I played was Free, which I think you mentioned, and the second song was Character Zero, both of which are great. And I'm going to end with 2 other songs from that same album, Billy Breathes. But they have so much powerful music and really great stuff. So I highly recommend checking them out. You know, their studio stuff is great. Their live stuff is also really great as well. Yeah, they're a lot of fun to dive into. So yeah, thank you for that, and thanks for sharing the miracles. And that's what happens, right? When we're in that God frequency, when we're allowing the divine to move through us and be around us, then we're open to these miracles happening. And that's the that's the miracle. So I appreciate everyone today, and really great topics, and thank you to all who brought stuff forward, and looking forward to continuing on any of these topics in the next conversation if we need to, and just keep on keeping on. So I'm going to play 2 songs from Phish to play us out, and the lyrics are pretty simple, so we can just go over them super quickly. The first one is Prince Caspian, which is probably my favorite song of theirs. There's something about it, and there's something about the sound of it and how it plays. I love it. But the lyrics are very simple, and the message I see in it is very simple as well. So Prince Caspian, oh, to be Prince Caspian afloat upon the waves. So the waves are the oscillating motion, as I've mentioned, the sine wave, the toroidal field, the in-breath, out-breath, all of it is the cycle that happens. So the waves are, if we float upon them, then we're not resistant to the downs, the lulls, and we're not overly attached to the highs. We are afloat upon the waves as they move through, and that's allowing the divine to move through us and move through our experiences all around us to create the most wonderful possibility you can imagine. So that's the song's goal, or what I see in the song, is to bring us back to that, with nothing to return to but the demons in their caves. Sort of examining the those who live not floating upon the waves, with nothing to return to but the demons in the caves, and the children in the fields all sowing seed and chaffing wheat. So the wheat and chaff, the separation, the harvest, references there. Oh, to be Prince Caspian with stumps instead of feet. That might be referencing the allowing the divine to take us, instead of trying to force ourselves to go a certain way, we allow the movement, we allow that shift. So that's that song. And then the next one is Theme from the Bottom. And this is once we have reestablished ourselves and become reborn, then the theme from the bottom is that we've got that solid foundation to build off of. We start from the ground up and we move up through that. So I feed from the bottom, you feed from the top. I feed from the bottom because I'm taking this the right way. I'm starting there. You feed from the top because you're feeding from the top of others and not you're attached to that reality. So we come back to the bottom. I live upon morsels you happen to drop, and coffee that somehow leaks out of your cup. Well, I guess it could also be referencing you feed from the top as in like the divine starts from the top. So we live upon morsels you happen to drop, and coffee that somehow leaks out of your cup. If nothing comes down, then I'm forced to swim up. So that's the forcing us to come up from the bottom is the divine sort of enticement, if you will. You know, we are enticed by that divine nature to rise up to meet it. And that's the union between. On the way upwards, the colors come back. So we start in the red and we go through all the colors all the way up to the Roy G. Biv, you know, move through the 7 colors. But all along the bottom is blue, gray, and black. The foundation. The darkness is cold and perception goes wrong, and the night seems to go on incredibly long. So I ask you why, if I'm swimming by, don't you see anything you'd like to try? I ask you why, if I'm swimming by, if I'm swimming up and you see me, don't you see anything you'd like to try? So the Christ that inspires us to swim upwards, pantomime mixtures of heaven and earth, the juxtaposition of heaven and earth that we find ourselves in, jumbled events that have less than no worth. So it's all, I mean, jumbled events that have less than no worth, not to be apathetic or think that this has no meaning, but just remember that it's all a vision. It's all not meaningless, but we don't have to get so fixated or attached to it has to go a certain way. We just get to enjoy the experience and see it for what it is. Time in the forest to dig under rocks, or float in the ocean asleep in a box, or sink just below all the churning and froth, and swim to the light source, or fly like a moth. So toss away stuff you don't need in the end, but keep what's important, and I know who's your friend. So I ask you why, if I'm swimming by, don't you see anything that you'd like to try? And then from the bottom. So it's the Christ message. So yeah, I'm going to play these 2 songs as we end today. I think I selected that right. Let me just and yeah, thanks everyone for being here. We'll keep on doing these. I believe we'll be doing a watch party tomorrow. Didn't do one last week, but I think we'll be able to do one tomorrow. So I will do a post about that tomorrow when I make a selection. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, wherever you are. Really appreciate you coming by. Sending love out to everybody. Take care.